Proclamato il Regno d'Italia.
Ascanio teneva sua moglie in una villa e la sua amante in una torre. Quando sua moglie morì ed egli sposò la sua amante, fece distruggere la torre e ne usò i mattoni per costruire una statua. I suoi vicini considerarono l'atto simbolico. Fare della tua amante tua moglie voleva dire creare un posto vacante. L'avrebbe riempito con una capanna? Corpo in moro eresse la...
Some of the students the last 2 days have seen sections of this, but I'd like to show something else. The BBC, in their wisdom, decided to celebrate the centenary, was it of Mozart's death or birth, was it 5 or 6 years ago, by inviting a series of European composers to make a comment, not so much perhaps on Mozart himself, but about Mozart's reputation, or indeed the Mozart industry. So a lot of their music was deliberately, again, ironic or sarcastic, or at the very least took a long-distance view. But a little unusual commission, because the BBC first of all commissioned the composer, rather than the director or a writer, and then that composer chose a director he would like to work with. In Holland, I think it's generally regarded their foremost avant-garde composer is a gentleman called Louis Andriessen, who has a reputation, I think, for post-minimalist, Stravinsky-orientated musical imagination. He, I suppose, could be regarded as the same age as the minimalists in America, but his roots are far much more into German 12-tone music, Schoenberg, Berg, Webern, as much as these other concerns that influenced the Americans. So the situation was then to write a piece of music. It's divided into 5 parts. I want to show you the 3rd part, and the general conceit is based around the middle letter of the alphabet, the letter M and the 13th letter, 2 13s make 26, and the title is M is, the long title is M is for man, movement, music, and Mozart. Before you can have Mozart, you have to have music. Before you have music, you have to have movement. Before you have movement, you have to have man. And before you have any of those, you have to have the letter M. Can we proceed, please? And using the mask as a form of entertainment, I suppose like a variety show. The mask had a bit of this, a bit of that, and a bit of the other. It was often there to support the divine right of kings, the problem of the early Stuarts. I think, as regarded probably, that maybe Shakespeare felt a little uncomfortable with these new particular technologies of his time, because it has been said that this was the last play that Shakespeare wrote, because he felt that all the young bloods, all the new enfants terribles were going to push him out, and the stage was set for Jacobean drama, Duchess of Malfoy and so on, which was a different concern from what Shakespeare was interested in. Though after having made Sybil in The Winter's Tale, one would imagine he might have set the ground for the Jacobean theatre anyway. Michael Nyman wrote the music. The text is, of course, by Mr. William Shakespeare himself. And for me, it is the beginnings of more complex operatic vocal music, which is setting the scene for a lot of the products that I do afterwards. So this is the mask sequence for the marriage of Miranda and Ferdinand that is almost at the end of the play. So could we see the clip, please? This is about spectacle, about the Baroque use of propaganda, real multimedia, post-Bernini with electricity attitudes towards the two dualities, which I suppose the major mask makers, Ben Jonson and Inigo Jones, are very much concerned with. You know how basically there are 2 sorts of filmic activity. There's the quiet chamber piece, which deals in psychological development, subdued, relying upon interaction of textual characters, and there's the Inigo Jones sense of spectacle. You're either a Fellini or you are, who should we say, a Mike Leigh. The name across my lips is anathema. But Mike Leigh represents Ben Jonson, and Fellini would represent Inigo Jones. I think that probably Shakespeare had a problem with whether the spectacle or the psychological drama should win. But for my purposes, since I had such a vocabulary to play with, I extracted a lot of the ceremony and repeated some of those tropes in another short film which I call A Walk Through Prospero's Library, and this has music by Philip Glass. On and on and on, an endless procession through all the mythological figures I could possibly think of in the classic world. Something completely different, going back to making, I suppose, multi-screen narrative films. There's a movie we made about 5 years ago called The Pillar Book, and this again has got a montage soundtrack. It deals with both contemporary subject matter in contemporary Kyoto, Osaka, and also Hong Kong, but also refers to a Chinese authoress called Sei Shonagon, who was writing 1,000 years ago. So there's music of past and present, pop present, serious present, Buddhist music from various other areas we visited. And this particular piece is very largely musicked by a French chanteuse called Geshpati. It has a complexity where the soundtrack and the written screen material and the imagery is all interplaying. I ought to tell you very, very briefly, the story is about a Japanese woman who wants her lovers to write on her body. And it's an opportunity to bring those two delicious subjects together, sex and text. Can we see the next item, please? The ancient Greeks did it, and I suppose you could say the present manifestation of putting image to sound would be essentially some phenomenon like that, which does sit in the middle of the film, fulfilling all sorts of obligations, but also essentially it is a video clip with all the associations that we have with that particular genre. The notion then of putting image to sound, I suppose, reached its greatest manifestation in Western Europe, certainly in the 17th century with the notions of opera. I think that opera is totally and absolutely unfilmable. There's a peculiar contradiction in the notion of film which demands close-ups and immediacy and a closure, whereas opera demands a continuous, uninterrupted, unedited wide shot. So when I began to make operas in Amsterdam with the Dutch composer Louis Andriessen, there was always, because I had a reputation as a filmmaker, television companies would ask me to make a film of it. I did so with great reluctance. But on this particular occasion, we made a film called, we made an opera called Rosa, which was about the death of a South American composer who wrote music, he really existed, for westerns in the early 1950s. A grim, grim story where he ends up dead in the desert. His wife is seriously abused and both the corpses are burnt. A story of great melodrama, but you think about most of the scenarios for most of the operas, think of Tosca, think of Carmen, think of all those grand, love, spectacular melodramatic stories which manage to make their point and make you suspend disbelief because they are so deeply associated with the ability of music to maneuver our sensibilities. I agreed eventually to make a film of this opera, provided I could shoot it all over again with a separate camera crew when there wasn't an audience in the auditorium. So the television company gave us about 5 days with an orchestra, incredibly generous. And so in a sense we remade the opera for a television screen. In association with all those other phenomena, which includes the fact that if you sing words, you almost certainly make them, in an operatic tradition, incomprehensible. Words on the screen for you to understand what people are saying. But we didn't do it in a conventional subtitling way. We tried to make the words absolutely integral to the whole surface plane of the film. So here is just a short section of a 2-hour film of an opera reworked to the screen called Rosa. I am in the process of editing, and we're in very primitive stages. But I want to just show you this new clip, because now I'm establishing a new relationship with a new Slovenian composer called Borut Krishnik. Hang on to that name, he's going to be an absolutely extraordinary leading light in European music before long.